There is a moment in your life when people who once liked you begin to turn against you, and it has nothing to do with anything you said or did. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, like a shift in the temperature of a room you've stood in your entire life. A friend who once greeted you with warmth now speaks with a measured tone, as if calculating how much of themselves to give you. Someone who used to respond instantly now lets your messages sit there, unread or deliberately unanswered. You sense it in the pause before they reply, in the sudden dryness of their smile, in the subtle hesitation that wasn't there before. You do not know it yet, but a silent contract has been broken, not by conflict, not by betrayal, but simply because you changed. And in your evolution, you committed the one act most people cannot forgive. You outgrew the version of you they were comfortable with. People do not resent your growth. They resent what your growth reveals about their lack of it. The moment you evolve, you disrupt the quiet equilibrium that held your relationships together. As long as you remained predictable, they knew who they were in relation to you. They knew their role, their rank, their position. But the instant you began to rise, even slightly, you introduced uncertainty into their world. And understand this, human beings are far more loyal to their comfort than they are to the truth. You were never just a person to them. You were a symbol, a reference point, a familiar figure who helped them maintain a sense of stability. When you changed, you shattered that stability, and the fragments cut deeper than you realize. Consider the friend who becomes strangely distant the moment you start improving your life. You may believe they would be proud, supportive, even inspired. But your progress shines a light on the hours they wasted, the dreams they abandoned, the potential they left unattended. You do not judge them, but your existence now feels like judgment to them. In your discipline, they see their indulgence. In your ambition, they see their hesitation. In your transformation, they see every moment they chose comfort over courage. And rather than face this truth, they retreat, not because they dislike you, but because standing beside you now forces them to confront themselves. Think of the colleague who suddenly competes with you, the same one who ignored you for years. When you were beneath their notice, you were harmless. You were background noise, a presence that posed no threat to their self-image. But the moment your work improves, the moment your results speak louder than their old reputation, something in them fractures. They start to watch you, measure you, mimic you, and sometimes even sabotage you. They may disguise it as professionalism, banter, or harmless rivalry, but beneath it lies a simple truth. Your ascent disrupts the hierarchy that allowed them to feel superior without effort. And humans cling to superiority the way others cling to air. Look at the family member who speaks with sarcasm the moment you show discipline. Perhaps you began waking early, saving money, training your body, controlling your impulses. Instead of admiration, you receive mockery disguised as humor. Why? Because you attempted what they have talked about for years but never executed. You did not confront them, but your discipline confronted their excuses. Your actions invalidate their narratives of someday, their stories of why change is impossible, and their belief that life has already been decided for them. Most people would rather ridicule the one who rises than rewrite the story they've told themselves for decades. Then there is the acquaintance who mocks your progress, as if growth were something shameful. It is not your achievements that offend them, it is what those achievements expose. Your progress dismantles the shield they built around their failures. You challenge their illusion that everyone is stuck, that no one changes, that life is static and predictable. You represent a contradiction they cannot reconcile, proof that their stagnation is not fate but choice. And nothing terrifies the stagnant more than realizing they are the architects of their own paralysis. Understand this psychological law. Humans crave stability, even if the stability is built on weakness. They want everyone around them to remain consistent, so they never have to confront their own inconsistencies. When you rise, you force them to acknowledge their inertia. When you grow, you force them to see where they have stopped. And rather than improve themselves, many choose the easier option. They resent the one who reminds them of everything they abandoned. This resentment is not loud at first. It is subtle, almost elegant in its quiet hostility. A delayed response, a half-hearted compliment, a sudden shift in tone when you speak of your progress. Their resentment moves like a shadow, following you silently as you ascend. What you must grasp is the cold Machiavellian truth. People do not turn against you because you changed. They turn against you because your change strips away the illusions they depended on. You have become a mirror, and most cannot survive the mirror. When they look at you, They no longer see who you used to be. They see the reflection of their own stagnation, their wasted years, their untaken risks, their abandoned ambitions, and because they cannot punish their past, they punish the one who exposes it. And yet, this is only the beginning. For there is a second cause, darker, sharper, far more primal. A force rooted not in insecurity but in fear itself. It is the moment when people stop seeing you as a reminder of their failures and start seeing you as a threat. And that is where the real turning begins. When the shift begins, it feels personal, but it is not. It is instinct. It is survival. The moment someone perceives you as different from who you once were, they must reevaluate their position relative to you. And as you continue to rise, something far more dangerous awakens in them. A primitive recognition that you now possess something they do not. Momentum. People can forgive almost anything, but they cannot forgive the quiet terror of realizing someone they once underestimated is becoming powerful. Your growth, once merely inconvenient, now becomes threatening. They begin to study you the way a kingdom studies a rising rival, cautiously, suspiciously, and with a fear they will never voice aloud. This is the threat response. It is not the result of what you say, nor is it triggered by arrogance or superiority. It emerges because human beings are acutely aware of hierarchy, even when they pretend otherwise. The individual who once saw you as equal now senses a gap forming. They feel it in the way you speak with more clarity, in the way you carry yourself with more certainty, in the way you no longer seek their approval. Your independence destabilizes them. They cannot articulate why their chest tightens when you enter the room, why they suddenly compare themselves to you, or why your presence feels heavier than before. But the truth is simple. Your growth threatens the delicate structure of their identity. Imagine the colleague who used to walk past you without a second glance. Suddenly they notice your competence, your discipline, your results. They begin monitoring your wins, not because they admire them, but because each one pushes them further down the invisible hierarchy. The moment people believe you are capable of surpassing them, admiration mutates into fear, and fear, if left unaddressed, becomes hostility. This is why those who were indifferent to you when you were silent now become antagonistic when you begin to command attention. They fear losing relevance. They fear losing status. They fear losing control of the narrative in which they were always meant to be above you. Consider the friend who once joked with you freely, but now watches every word you say. They used to see you as harmless, someone who posed no threat to their image. But when you begin to improve yourself, your very existence becomes a challenge. Not because you intend to challenge them, but because they must confront the uncomfortable possibility that they are no longer the superior one in the relationship. And for many, the threat of losing psychological dominance is unbearable. They begin to distance themselves, not because they dislike you, but because they can no longer predict you. Predictability is safety, evolution is danger. Even family members feel this shift. When you grow, you disrupt the version of you they kept frozen in their minds. To them, you were supposed to remain small enough to manage, familiar enough to understand, humble enough to stay in your designated place. But when you begin to carve your own path, when you demonstrate competence they never attributed to you, fear creeps into their tone. They begin to question your decisions, criticize your ambition, or warn you about risks they never cared about before. Beneath their concern lies a simple truth. They fear losing influence over you. They fear that your newfound strength diminishes their own authority. And then there are the people who barely knew you, the distant acquaintances, the silent observers, the ones who never played a significant role in your life. Strangely, they often become hostile the fastest. Why? Because they have no emotional history to soften the blow of your ascent. They see only the surface, your improvement, your confidence, your rise. They assume you are becoming something powerful, and because they never benefited from your early weakness, they feel no loyalty to your new strength. Their fear is raw, unfiltered, untouched by memory, and fear without loyalty quickly becomes malice. Understand this. Once people perceive you as a threat, they begin to behave as if they are defending themselves. They gossip, not because they enjoy it, but because it stabilizes their fear. They criticize your choices to reduce your perceived power. They question your intentions to justify their discomfort. These actions are not about you, they are about regaining control. In their minds, diminishing you is the simplest way to protect themselves from the shadow of your potential. Humans often attack not what harms them, but what unsettles them. What they fear most is not who you are right now, but who you are becoming. You represent a trajectory, an upward path they cannot predict or influence. And in a world obsessed with certainty, an unpredictable person is the most dangerous kind. They begin to imagine futures in which you surpass them, outperform them, or overshadow them. The fear of what you might become is far more potent than any flaw or mistake you have made. Your evolution becomes a storm on their horizon, distant, silent, but undeniably approaching. And yet, this fear is only the surface. For beneath it lies something far more volatile, far more revealing, and far more dangerous than fear alone. Because it is not just your growth they fear, it is what your presence forces them to confront about themselves. And once the mirror turns toward them, the conflict shifts from instinct to something far more personal, something that cuts deeper than hierarchy, status, or power. There comes a moment when the fear others feel toward your growth transforms into something sharper, something far more intimate. It is no longer just the threat of your rising position that disturbs them. It is the reflection of themselves that your presence forces them to see. This is the mirror effect, the turning point where people's reactions stop being about your progress and start being about their own internal fractures. When you walk into a room carrying a stronger mind, a clearer purpose, or a more disciplined life, you unknowingly hold up a mirror to everyone around you. And most people do not hate the mirror for what it shows, they hate the one who holds it. Your evolution becomes a quiet interrogation. Without speaking a single word, you make others face the truths they have spent years avoiding. A person who has neglected their health will notice your discipline before they notice anything else. Someone who has sacrificed their ambition for comfort will feel a sting when they hear of your progress. Those who once prided themselves on being ahead of you now struggle to understand how their certainty slipped into doubt. You are not trying to expose them, but your existence exposes them. The more you become who you are meant to be, the more they realize they have drifted further from who they claimed they would become. This mirror effect is merciless because it bypasses defensiveness and strikes at identity. People can tolerate hierarchy. They accept that some will be above and some will be below, but they cannot tolerate a reminder that they have failed themselves. When they look at you and see the discipline they abandoned, the courage they lacked, the dreams they postponed, resentment begins to crystallize. Not because you harmed them, but because you illuminated the stagnation they spent years disguising as stability. And when people feel exposed, even unintentionally, they begin to see you not as a person, but as a threat to their self-image. Think of the friend who laughs too quickly when you share your progress. Their laughter is not amusement, it is defense. They are attempting to blur the mirror so they do not have to face the uncomfortable truth it reflects. Or consider the acquaintance who suddenly becomes hypercritical of your choices, pointing out flaws you never asked them to evaluate. They are not judging you out of wisdom, they are judging you out of fear that your growth invalidates their mediocrity. The harsher their tone, the more you know the mirror has reached them. A person who feels secure has no desire to tear down the rising, only the insecure do. Even the people closest to you are not immune. A family member who once encouraged your dreams may shift into subtle disapproval. They may question your decisions, warn you about risks, or accuse you of changing too much. But beneath their concern lies a painful truth. Your growth forces them to confront the life they settled for. You become the embodiment of a path they abandoned long ago. And rather than deal with the grief of their own unrealized potential, they project that grief onto you. It is easier to criticize what you are building than to admit they stopped building anything for themselves. The mirror effect penetrates deeper than jealousy. It reaches the core of a person's identity, stripping away the layers of excuses they relied on. When someone who believed themselves disciplined meets a person truly disciplined, their illusion collapses. When someone who believed themselves ambitious watches another pursue their goals relentlessly, their comfort becomes suffocating. And when someone who believed themselves wise encounters a mind sharpened by experience and strategy, their pride begins to tremble. This trembling is not admiration, it is existential discomfort, and discomfort has a habit of turning into hostility. You must understand that your rise forces people to rewrite their internal narratives. They once viewed you as harmless, predictable, manageable. Now, they must redraw the boundaries of their identity in relation to yours. And most people are too attached to their stories to rewrite them fully. Instead, they try to erase you from the equation. They minimize your accomplishments, question your motives, or pretend they never noticed the changes at all. They try to smudge the mirror rather than look into it. But no matter how they try to distort the reflection, the truth remains. Your evolution has made you a threat not just to their comfort, but to their sense of self. This is why people who once adored you begin to pull away. Why relationships that seemed solid begin to crack. Why the circles you once fit into begin to feel strangely tight. The mirror effect reveals the fragility of everyone around you. Some become quieter, cautious, almost reverent, as if they sense the ground shifting. Others become bitter, sarcastic, or combative, desperate to regain a sense of validation by diminishing you. But all of these reactions, every silence, every side comment, every cold glance can be traced back to one truth. You are no longer reflecting who they want to be, but who they fear they have become. And yet, this psychological unraveling is still not the true breaking point. Because once people realize they cannot change you, cannot stop you, and cannot escape what they see in the mirror, their instincts shift into something far more strategic. They begin calculating how your rise alters the balance of power and how their own relevance is threatened by it. It is in this next stage that alliances shift, hierarchies crack, and hidden agendas begin to surface. When the mirror effect settles in and people realize they cannot escape what your presence forces them to confront, their reactions evolve into something colder, more calculated. The discomfort they once felt becomes strategy. The tension that simmered beneath the surface becomes movement. This is the moment when your rise no longer feels like a personal insult to them, it feels like a redistribution of power. And whenever power shifts, alliances must be reconsidered. Humans may pretend they are driven by emotion, loyalty, or moral principle, but beneath every social interaction lies a simple equation: who benefits, who threatens, and who must be controlled. When you begin to rise, that equation is rewritten, and suddenly, you are no longer a participant in their hierarchy. You are a disruption to it. People begin to study you differently, not with curiosity now, but with calculation. They measure the weight of your presence. They analyze the influence you are starting to command. They question how your ascent affects the position they have built for themselves. The colleague who once overlooked you now watches carefully, sensing your momentum. The friend who once confided in you now speaks with measured caution, aware that you have grown into someone they can no longer predict. Even the quiet observers, the ones who never spoke much to you, begin adjusting their behavior, as if your very existence rearranges the social landscape. They do not hate you, they fear what must be reorganized around you. Understand this: every rising individual forces a re-ranking of the group. And whenever the hierarchy is disturbed, people respond like kingdoms facing an emerging power. Some seek alliances, hoping proximity to your ascent will elevate them, or at least protect them from becoming irrelevant. They begin to compliment you more, support you publicly, or attach themselves to your victories. Not out of loyalty, but out of self-preservation. They sense your trajectory and position themselves accordingly. They would rather ride the elevator with you than be crushed by its ascent. Others take the opposite path. They feel the ground shift and respond with resistance. They may try to undermine you subtly, not because you wronged them, but because they believe your rise diminishes their standing. In their mind, power is a finite resource. If you gain, they must lose. This scarcity mindset fuels their hostility. They question your competence, highlight your flaws, or create quiet coalitions built on shared insecurity. Their alliances form not around truth, but around mutual fear. These groups rarely admit their purpose, but their behavior exposes them. They are trying to slow your ascent by anchoring themselves to each other. Even your silence begins to carry power. When you withhold your opinion, people wonder why. When you speak minimally, they analyze every word. Authority is not always granted, sometimes it is sensed. And when others sense it in you, they adjust their tone, their posture, even the way they argue with you. They become careful, selective, almost deferential, as if your presence alone introduces consequences they are not prepared to confront. This shift marks the moment you stop being one of them and become someone they must navigate. The most revealing aspect of the power equation is how people treat you in public versus private. In private, insecurity is raw. They may challenge you, mock you, or act unimpressed. But in public, where hierarchy is visible and comparisons are unavoidable, their behavior changes. They may praise you more openly, defer to your ideas, or avoid direct conflict. Not because they respect you, but because public spaces expose the truth they are trying to hide, that you are rising faster than they are prepared for. Social environments force them to acknowledge the very shift they deny in private. And then there are the ones who try to maintain neutrality. They act unaffected, unmoved, detached. But neutrality is rarely neutral. They are observing you, assessing whether aligning with you will benefit their future. They calculate if resisting you is worth the risk. They weigh whether your influence will grow or collapse. These individuals play the long game. They attach themselves only when they believe the winner is clear. And once they decide that winner is you, their entire attitude shifts, not out of admiration, but out of strategic alignment. In their world, loyalty is transactional. Once you understand this dynamic, you will see why your rise often feels lonelier the higher you climb. It is not because people leave, it is because they change roles. Friends become competitors, competitors become critics, critics become imitators, and imitators become shadows waiting for your next move so they know how to position themselves. The entire social order reorganizes itself around you, whether you asked for it or not. Power does not simply reveal who supports you, it reveals who depends on your weakness. And when you eliminate that weakness, you remove their leverage. But there is an even darker shift ahead. For when alliances start shifting and hierarchies begin to crack, people eventually reach a point where calculation is no longer enough. They begin to feel pressure to maintain their identity, pressure to defend their relevance, pressure to survive the new order you have created by simply rising. And when that pressure becomes unbearable, something breaks, something inside them snaps from fear into action. What happens next is not subtle, not strategic, not hidden beneath layers of social politeness. It is the moment loyalty fractures, masks fall, and the true nature of people reveals itself. There is a moment in every rise when the atmosphere around you becomes unbearably tight. People who once tolerated your growth now feel crushed beneath the weight of what you represent. Their strategies, their subtle resistance, their careful calculations, none of it is enough anymore. Your momentum continues, indifferent to their anxieties. And when they realize they cannot slow you down, cannot outmaneuver you, cannot reclaim the psychological territory they lost, something far more primal begins to unfold. This is the breaking point, the moment loyalty collapses under pressure, and the true nature of every person around you is revealed with brutal clarity. It begins with small fractures. A friend you trusted suddenly becomes inconsistent. Their tone shifts, their presence fades, their enthusiasm dulls. They still smile, still pretend to support you, but the fractures show in the pauses, the hesitations, the subtle withdrawal of warmth. They are no longer standing beside your rise. They are standing beside their fear of being left behind. Their loyalty was never built on who you are. It was built on who you used to be. And when that version of you disappears, the foundation they stood on crumbles. They begin searching for solid ground elsewhere, even if that means stepping away from you. Others break in more dramatic ways. A relative who once encouraged your goals suddenly becomes critical or unpredictable. One day they praise you, the next day they undermine you. Their instability is not random, it is pressure. They feel your ascent stripping away the authority they once held over you. The more independent you become, the more powerless they feel. And powerless individuals cling desperately to whatever control they can salvage. When they cannot control your actions, they attempt to control the narrative. When they cannot control the narrative, they resort to emotional volatility. The inconsistency is not a flaw in them, it is a confession. Then there are the allies who were never allies at all. They collapse the fastest because their loyalty was conditional from the beginning. As long as you were predictable, as long as you stayed within familiar limits, they were supportive. But when your trajectory begins to surpass theirs, they pivot. They become colder, sharper, more observant. They wait for missteps, hoping your rise ends before it threatens the comfort of their own stagnation. These individuals do not betray you with grand gestures. They betray you quietly. They celebrate your failures more than your victories. They gossip softly, not loudly. They smile at you while planting seeds of doubt in rooms you are not in. Their breaking point is subtle but devastating. The most dangerous transformation, however, occurs in those who once relied on your weakness. People who built their confidence on being above you experience a violent internal collapse when your rise removes that source of superiority. They begin to see you not as someone growing, but as someone dismantling their identity. And when a person feels their identity slipping away, betrayal becomes a form of self-preservation. They strike preemptively, criticizing you, excluding you, positioning themselves as the victim so they can justify their hostility toward you. Their betrayal is not born from cruelty, but from the terror of losing the version of themselves that existed only when you were small. You will also witness a shift in the silent observers. These were the people who once stayed neutral, who never expressed jealousy, who never interfered with your ambitions. But as the pressure rises, their neutrality becomes impossible to maintain. Some will reveal hidden admiration and move closer to you, sensing that your rise is undeniable. Others will reveal hidden resentment, realizing too late that your progress exposes everything they chose not to pursue. The observers polarize, not because of anything you did, but because your evolution forces them to choose a side. And choosing a side requires facing the truth about who they really are. But the most painful breaking point of all comes from those you trusted deeply. The ones who saw your early struggles, who encouraged your first steps, who shared in your victories. Over time, they begin to realize that the path you are on is no longer parallel to theirs. And rather than confront the grief of diverging paths, they blame you for the distance. They accuse you of changing, becoming distant, becoming selfish. They cannot admit that what they truly mourn is the loss of the version of themselves that existed beside you. Loyalty collapses here, not because of malice, but because of emotional fragility, and fragility under pressure becomes destructive. Understand this, loyalty is not tested when things are easy. Loyalty is tested when your evolution demands that others evolve with you, and they cannot. The weight of your ascent presses onto every relationship you have. Some withstand the pressure and harden into something unbreakable. Others crack instantly, but many do something worse. They crumble slowly, quietly, without warning, until one day you look around and realize that the people who once stood beside you are now standing behind you, not to support you, but to watch what happens next. And this breaking point, as harsh as it is, sets the stage for the final truth. Because once loyalty collapses, once masks fall, once every relationship has revealed its true structure, you are forced to confront a question far more critical than why people turned against you. You must confront how to survive it, and more importantly, how to use it. For betrayal, in the hands of a Machiavellian mind, is not merely a wound, it is information, and information, wielded correctly, becomes power. When the breaking point has passed and the dust begins to settle, you find yourself standing in a new landscape, one stripped of illusion, stripped of false loyalty, stripped of the comforts you once mistook for certainty. It is here, in the aftermath of their turning, that the final and most dangerous truth reveals itself. Survival is no longer about being understood, accepted, or approved. It is about learning to navigate betrayal with clarity instead of sentiment. In this stage of your ascent, you must adopt a perspective that most people avoid because it feels cold, unforgiving, even ruthless. But survival does not reward the warm-hearted, it rewards the strategic. And nothing sharpens strategy more effectively than betrayal. Once people have shown you who they become under pressure, you must accept their transformation as fact. Do not attempt to restore old relationships. Do not negotiate for lost loyalty, and do not mourn the versions of people that only existed when your weakness kept them comfortable. Every betrayal, every fracture, every shift you observed was information. These insights are not emotional wounds, they are maps. They reveal who can be trusted with proximity, who must be kept at a distance, and who must be removed entirely. This is the Machiavellian lesson. Betrayal is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of accurate perception. To survive and ascend, you must abandon the illusion that your growth obligates anyone to support you. People support what benefits them, what elevates them, or what validates their identity. When you no longer serve these purposes, their loyalty dissolves. And this is liberating because it frees you from chasing approval that was never truly yours. When you stop seeking acceptance, you stop offering your throat to those waiting for the opportunity to cut deeper. The moment you detach emotionally from their reactions, you reclaim the power they hope to keep from you. Emotional neutrality is not coldness, it is protection. This neutrality allows you to see the architecture of power with clear eyes. You begin to understand that people behave not according to who you are, but according to who they fear you will become. The friend who pulled away feared irrelevance. The colleague who resisted feared displacement. The relative who criticized you feared losing authority. The acquaintance who mocked you feared confronting their own failures. With this understanding, resentment becomes unnecessary. You do not need to hate them, you only need to stop misreading them. When you interpret their actions as fear rather than malice, You stop reacting and start planning. And planning is where your evolution truly becomes dangerous. You begin repositioning yourself with intention. Those who showed silent admiration may be invited closer, not out of sentiment but out of alignment. Those who broke under pressure are not punished. They are simply removed from positions where their instability could damage your ascent. Those who attempted to sabotage you are not confronted. They are outmaneuvered by depriving them of access, information, and relevance. The most effective form of retaliation is always strategic irrelevance. When someone can no longer reach you, influence you, or interpret your moves, their hostility collapses into impotence. This is the stage where you also learn a paradoxical truth. The more you evolve, the less you must speak. Power does not require explanation. Your silence will unsettle those who once fed on your predictability. Your discipline will intimidate those who glorified their stagnation. Your presence alone will pressure those who fear what you reflect. And your ability to stay calm in the face of hostility will confirm to them that you are no longer the person they once knew. You are becoming someone they cannot calculate, contain, or control. But the greatest Machiavellian lesson hidden within betrayal is this: you do not rise by removing enemies. You rise by understanding them. Opposition reveals vulnerabilities in the social structure. Hostility reveals the fears of others. Betrayal reveals the limits of their loyalty. These revelations are not curses, they are leverage. When you know what people fear, what motivates them, and what fractures them, you possess an advantage they do not know you hold. Your ascent becomes inevitable because you no longer operate blindly. You navigate with precision. And yet, the final transformation does not occur when you outmaneuver others. It occurs when you outgrow the need for their validation entirely. When you no longer shape your identity around acceptance. When you no longer shrink yourself to preserve their comfort. When you no longer explain your evolution to those determined to misunderstand it, you reach a level of psychological sovereignty few ever attain. From this point forward, betrayal no longer wounds you. It warns you. Disloyalty no longer surprises you. It informs you. And hostility no longer slows you down. It sharpens you. This is the ultimate survival, to rise with a clear understanding of human nature, free from illusions, free from attachments that distort judgment, and free from the emotional fragility that once made you vulnerable. Power is not merely acquired, it is survived. And once you have survived those who turned against you, you become someone fundamentally different from who you were at the beginning of your ascent. You become someone who no longer fears the shifting of alliances or the collapsing of relationships. You become someone who understands that betrayal, once decoded, becomes strategy. But there is one final truth, one that cuts deeper than betrayal itself. For once you understand how to survive those who turned against you, the next challenge is learning to survive something far more dangerous: what power reveals about you. If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you already knows this truth. People do not turn against you because you did something wrong. They turn against you because you stopped being who they needed you to be. Growth threatens the stagnant. Confidence exposes the insecure. Independence insults the dependent. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to lose people who are only loyal to your weakness? Are you willing to accept that betrayal is the price of becoming someone stronger? If this message touched you, if it made sense, write in the comments, "I choose growth." Let's see how many here are truly ready to outgrow their old world. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It's important, much more than you imagine. See you there.